Welcome to the Realm of Ideas is Free to All. This is episode 69, the preview for The Honesty of Genius. This is something we've been wanting to talk about for a while, so this will be the preview. What we do is we do a preview on Wednesday night to kind of like give a kind of hint as to what we'll be talking about early Sunday morning. So this is we're over 200 subscribers. Thank you, everyone, and we're over 100 videos. These are two great milestones. Have to thank Julie for that because without her,
You're welcome.
we'd still probably have 9 subscribers.
205.
I know, it's nice.
Yeah.
That's basically what we'll be talking about. So I'm going to read from probably a book that you've heard me read from before, and I mean I'll kind of explain this piece because the title, "The Honesty of Genius," and I'm reading from Whitehead's The Adventures of Ideas, where he talks about truth and beauty. And he says, in a teleological of the universe is directed to the production of beauty. Thus, any system of things which in any wide sense is beautiful is to that extent justified in its existence. So therefore, it doesn't need to prove itself because it's the pursuit of a purposeful universe, if such a thing exists, is the intent itself. So teleology is basically the idea of the belief that there is a purposeful universe, and the fact that those things that you pursue as a result of that teleological intent would be such that their existence would be justified in itself. Now, I feel the same thing could be said about truth, and I think that that's what makes genius, an incredibly honest and genuine thing, because basically, if indeed it does not allude to truth, it at the very least kind of like supposed to honesty. So now let me break that down in terms of what I would say is the difference between honesty and truth. Again, in a purposeful universe, if such a thing exists, and I do believe, and I have no reason not to believe that, because of the fact there's enough evidence, at least circumstantially, to kind of go along in that direction, I would say that the idea that I can have an object that has a certain utility, to me, is enough of an indication that there's a purposefulness to the universe. Otherwise, I would not be able to like continue to have that built upon. So the fact that I can predict things and I can have scientific complications as a result of that is my evidence. It is not it is basically, I say, inductive and not deductive, but it basically allows me for at least the speculation that to a large extent I can kind of grasp onto that. So honesty is what you believe to be the case.
Or it's the chimes at midnight.
Oh, yeah. The truth is ultimately, in a teleological universe, that which is. So I may say that I believe that the car that rode past me at 8 o'clock was a gray car. But in the dark, it's hard to distinguish between gray, blue, black, purple. So basically, it could have even been a red car bed based on the light conditions and what I saw.
Isn't then the truth relative?
Well, again, no, the truth isn't relative
in those circumstances.
It's the truth is hard to kind of basically understand because it's muddled. But you are giving your honest appraisal. You honestly believe what you saw. However, what you saw could have been an error, right? The truth basically kind of like, so that's why I don't say the truth of genius. I say the honesty of genius. And what I think for me is important about what we're going to be talking about is the fact that we understand the concept of genius. Genius is that thing that when we come across it, like beauty, like truth, we kind of like have to abide with a certain respect and a certain decorum. So I find that if there is something that can bring us back from this brink that we seem to be on, I think one of the things we have to stop doing is stop kind of like vacillating in terms of this idea that there may or may not be consequence. So I think one of the things that kind of gives towards consequence would be genius or beauty or truth. Okay, so that, from my point of view, that's what I'm going to be trying to talk about. Okay, Pete.
Yes, Pete. What I was referring to it being
give you rubbies.
Relative. Thanks, that's really nice.
You have coughings.
Oh God, yeah. Having some spring allergies. Is the truth is constant. The perception of truth is relative. And that's what I mean. Human perception is often deeply flawed based on subjectivity, based on environment, based on the presence of other humans. I find there is a plasticity, a disturbing amount of plasticity to the human sculpting of truth. And I believe that humans will sculpt the truth as they want it to be more often than not. And there's an interesting parallel here in imagination and pretense among the primates. There were some very interesting experiments in neuropsychology amongst a group of bonobos. They're called acculturated because they've been taught to communicate by pointing to or pressing buttons that are human words that they normally would not use, but they now basically stand for actions and ideas that the bonobos would associate with human linguistic truths, human ideological truths. Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting thought. Cross-species truths, interspecies truths, other species truths. I don't believe that truth is a constant across the wide swath of species. I believe that truth has many different incarnations, aberrations, and permutations across different species.
I believe the truth is not a constant,
Nice.
but is basically something that basically can be stable as a result of a process, and kind of like at a certain point has certain consequences as a result of that stability, which can be questioned. So basically, there's a desperation as regards consequence. And as a result, I feel that that's a dilemma. It's an existential crisis that we're basically kind of contend with at the moment. And I believe that people who are incapable of consequence or meaning or purposefulness want to pretend that that's not a coincidence, that it is a coincidence, and it's a coincidence of an existential reality, is that there is no such thing. Now, I guess for a mediocre cellist or a mediocre painter or a mediocre architect, you would want to live in a relativistic kind of like inconsequential existence, because then there's no way to kind of judge yourself against, you don't have to be awed by the consequence of Mozart or Beethoven or Einstein or kind of like Frank Lloyd Wright or Sibelius. Exactly. And I think that's kind of cowardly and kind of like pathetic. So I kind of feel as if maybe it's my arrogance, but again, as I've said,
I love your arrogance.
I consider, what was the word?
I think it's actually one of your finest qualities.
I think it is, and I consider myself graciously arrogant.
You're always very polite about it.
I'm always very gracious in my arrogance. So I would say that desperation as regards consequence is something that kind of like I find kind of like pathetic. So that's us for now. I'm sorry we're late because we had a long day today. My fault. So instead of 10:30, we're here at 11:30. I
have something else to say.
Say.
So I find the truth in the plant. Oh, it feels great.
Thank you, P.
The truth in the mycological realm is very different from truth in the kingdom of plants, truth in the kingdom of vertebrates and invertebrates. So
I'm gonna love this. It's gonna be great.
Yes. There was, like I started saying, there was a very interesting experiment, and this is a springboard to the greater discussion of whether humans pretending that objects that are there are not there, certain actions are happening when they are really not. A pantomime, if you will, a masquerade, a pretense of very human deeds and services, which might not necessarily correlate with the perception of primates as a truth. They can, and here is the question: if truth is mimicked, is it believed, or is it just a pantomime of another species' truth?
I believe it would be a pantomime.
And that's what I think. And I think that while these experiments were, and I'm being kind, vaguely reproducible, they weren't really because, hey, hi.
Someone signed in. Hi.
I'm guessing it's Frank. Hello,
Oh,
Frank.
Might be Frank. Could be Chris.
It could, or hello, Mr. Spock.
Mhm.
Live long and prosper. So, in these experiments, the truth of a slime mold that is mapping out the Tokyo subway
Peely.
system. Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Can I continue? Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Can I continue?
Mhm.
Yes. How? The truth that when a slime mold is mapping out the subway system is very, very different from human engineers who are mapping out the subway system. So the truth that one species holds dear is certainly not the truth that is basically inherent in the dictums and the theories and the practices, if you will, the religion of another species.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
So that's it.
That's fine.
Okay,
for
so
me.
we're looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Hi, Peely. Nice to see you. And as we close off, the realm of ideas is free to all, and it's to benefit all for it to keep us that way.
Mhm.